What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the Jeezy Chop Chop podcast. I am your host, Project Tachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, War Nurse, and we got to talk about Black Myth Wukong. 100% a phenomenal game. I have been addicted to it. I know you have you've been busy with working, so you're just really getting into it, but you've enjoyed it. So, wow. I know some people are a little hesitant on getting the game because, on one hand, it's Game Science's first game, their indie studio, and this is their first game, which, by the way, for a first game, that's amazing.
It looks like they on it for quite a while too, several years minimum. Because I remember hearing about it back a few years ago.
Yeah,
so 4 or 5 years ago, it was getting worked on.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of love put into it. So kudos to them for having such a great achievement for their first game. Absolutely well done. But I wanted to dive a little bit into some of the lore, some of the conversations surrounding it. I'm not going to talk so much about the controversy with the studio behind it. I know a lot of people have been like, oh, I don't want to buy the game because of that. I feel like this is a case of separating the art from the artist and, making your judgment based off of that. So we're not going to be covering that. That gets really, really messy. But as for the game itself, I have to say, I honestly think it should be included in the Game Awards. Honestly, probably for best action game of the year so far. I have not been able to put that game down. In my opinion, it rivals things such as God of War, and then right on the heels of Stellar Blade. And there, like I said, there's been another, other good action games. You had the other indie game, Stellar Blade, that came out to rave reviews. Also had controversy surrounding it. I think.
Is it a good game without a little controversy, though?
That's what I'm thinking. I think a lot of people, especially with indie games right now, starting to come to the surface, a lot of people just don't want to see their AAA studios taking
I want to see all the AAA studios collapse and take a knee because I'm tired of them, especially when it comes to the FPS and the shooters and the battle royales. I'm so goddamn tired of all of them and the battle passes and the microtransactions. And it's obvious. I don't know what it is over the past maybe 4 to 6 months, but a lot more people have been much more vocal about how tired they are of it. Mm-hmm. And not always by saying it, just through like what they're saying, but just not directly about the gaming industry and the state of gaming.
And their actions.
And their actions.
Subscriptions
what
and
they're
not buying
purchasing
things.
on, canceling subscriptions. And a lot of people are fed up with like Apex for some of their recent things. So
I think that's why action games have been shining for the, latter half of the year. Why something like Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong, they're doing so phenomenal because you're getting a bang for your buck. And for Black Myth Wukong, that was only a $60 game. They didn't even charge the full price, which, to be honest, by today's standards, I was very, very surprised. I was like, wow, I'm getting more out of this $60 game than I've gotten out of quite a few of my $70 games, which is the standard price. So that was also, really, really appealing. And I hear, because I don't play it on PC, I play it on console. I love my action games on console. That's just how I grew up. But I hear that on PC, graphically, it's phenomenal. Now, granted, everyone I've watched who's been playing it on PC, they're running a 4090. Your average.
Well, I was going to say budget, too, like this is something that I've personally noticed when I ask people why, like what their hardware is when they're complaining about graphics or frame rates and stuff, and it never fails. Every single person I talk to fell into that trap that you need a 30 or 40 series and that's it.
Their processor's like an i3.
Their processor's like an i5, like their RAM is like 8. Like they're just like, dude, y'all got to balance this stuff out. I run a 260 Super, and that is a lot older. That 20 series is getting old. But I have an i9, It's a i9-9900 with 32 gigs of RAM, which is overkill. Y'all don't need that. Y'all only need 16 is more than enough. I have 32. It was on sale. Overkill anyways. Stuff like that, guys. Y'all don't have to spend $3,000 on a PC and half that money you've spent was on the newest graphics card. Like, it's not. You don't need that. I can run full graphic settings on all my games for the most part and get good frames. So y'all don't buy it. A little side note for y'all.
And my little side note to this, and I say this a lot, I'm like, guys, don't let the content creators sucker you in with their graphics cards and all that. They get that stuff absolutely for free. They're sponsored.
Well, and I think people would be surprised how many content creators don't actually know that much about their PC.
Yeah, they get their stuff handed to them. They get it shipped in.
Not to be mean, but
don't get me wrong, they've earned that right. You know, they've built the crowd, they've built the community. This company is benefiting from it, so they're getting the free stuff.
Mhm.
But you don't have to compete and keep up with them. You're like, yo, I got my $5,000 PC, and that same content creator's like, bro, I haven't built a PC since I started this 12 years ago.
Well, and like the only reason they tend to need such powerful rigs is because they're streaming, they have multiple screens. There's a lot of things going on that requires all that extra stuff. We don't need all that.
Yeah.
And I don't stream anymore, and so my rig is overkill even with what I have.
Yeah. So you can I have a gaming PC as well, and just like you, it's running the 20 series, and I'm still able to play a lot of my games perfectly fine.
How far are you on Wukong? Because I'm at the, I think where I'm at is somewhere at the, not even in the middle of chapter 1.
I am now officially in chapter 4. I think I'm towards the end of chapter 4, getting ready to head into chapter 5. There are 6 chapters in the game.
Okay.
So I'm over the halfway point of the game.
What did you think about the cinematics? Like the intro cinematics?
I thought the intro cinematic was amazing. Because I liked Journey to the West. I like the movie. I like the lore. I love the lore of Sun Wukong, and getting to see post Sun Wukong after his journey, taking on, the other celestial gods to defend his mountain. That was phenomenal. To see him riding on his Nimbus cloud, that was great. And the way that the main menu, you start the game, and I love how when games do this, where the main menu picture
turns into the scene,
moves into the scene.
I think one of the Tomb Raider games do that, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which one, but one of the Tomb Raider games do that. I don't remember if it's one of the older ones or like kind of like the remake ones. So one of them does that. But yeah, I agree. It's pretty cool.
I
had
love
goosebumps,
that.
dude. When I saw him jump on that cloud, I was like, I did like that Leonardo DiCaprio thing. I was like,
what's over the yeah. But I saw that and I was like,
a lot of parallels.
Wow, this is how you start a game.
Between the game, Journey to the West, and the original Dragon Ball. I can't express that enough. The original Dragon Ball.
The original Dragon Ball. A lot of
parallels. Like you can really see like how a lot of lore and inspiration was taken from it.
Yeah.
It's funny online too. I've seen a lot of people like, oh, it wasn't taken from that. I'm like, it was. I don't know where you're getting your information, but it's been made very clear that Dragon Ball was inspired, not directly, not specifically every aspect, but it was inspired.
Yeah, Dragon Ball is inspired by the Journey to the West, Sun Wukong, and yes, Journey to the West is inspired by, I believe, a Hindu. I might be wrong about this. If you're listening,
I've heard something similar. I don't know like the truth or the information behind it. I heard something similar, but I've never similar. But I've never looked into it myself. So if you guys know, like, let us know. Journey to the West inspired by something else, like some other story? Tell us, because I'd like to know. I'm
sorry to break it to you, DBZ fans. Goku is heavily inspired by Sun Wukong. I saw that debate online, and a lot of them were like, no, it's the other way around. I'm like, guys, you just gotta.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Z, modern day media inspired a story thousands of years old. Yes, you guys are absolutely the lowest denominator of the education system in this country. That is insane.
That was mind-boggling that I was even
think that.
Even a debate. But I want to get into some. I figured a good way to approach the Black Myth Wukong conversation is maybe get into some tips and tricks, because I know online it's a Souls-like game without being a Souls game. Your death penalty, there's not a severe death penalty. As Byrne likes to say, you're getting punished just for getting punished in like Elden Ring and Dark Souls to an extent, which to an extent he's not wrong. You're getting punished just for the sake of getting punished. Where Black Myth is not an easy game, I would say this is what a boss rush as a full game would look like, because there are.
It's just boss after boss.
It's boss after boss.
I'm only in chapter 1, but I've already noticed that.
Yeah. But at the same time, I love that because your skills, you won't even notice it, but your skills will start to improve because of that kind of combat. Because you're fighting these enemies after enemy, you might grind a little bit, and then boom, there's a boss. And there's not always a big introduction. There's not always a cinematic. There's cinematics for the story. There's cinematics for some of the side quests. But most of the time, you can walk into a normal room and bam, it's a boss. And
one of them, like I'm assuming this is true for a lot of them, but one of the first bosses I ran into, I didn't know it was a boss, dude. Like I assumed it was a boss because it was an open area, but it's not like a giant health bar. I'm so used to playing FromSoft games and Armored Core and all that, and like like a health bar, it pops up, and then the music starts, right, and you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
There's nothing. There's just you getting your ass beat in a swamp.
Yeah.
To nature. It's a nature.
Yeah. These bosses, they're not pushovers by any means. From chapter 1, the tone is set pretty quick as you get smacked around. And there's literally like 2 bosses like 20 feet apart from each other. So you could go from one boss to the next boss if you're lucky, or get your ass beat by both bosses and then walk away with your head hanging low and then come back. One mechanic that I do see, I see a lot of content creators doing this, and then they'll say later in the video, they went back and did XYZ. You can grind, and it's not painful grinds. Honestly, the experience in Black Myth Wukong, I feel is very generous, that you can level up decently and then go in and tackle some of those difficult bosses a little bit more easily. And just by studying the patterns and coming up with combos and experiment with the different stances, you'll figure out what works. And one beautiful thing about the game is the infinite respeccing you can do. A lot of games, they penalize you for respeccing. You want to respec, you got to find a special item that there's only a limited number of in the game, or you got to pay a ridiculous amount in in-game currency that doubles every time you use it. So the game now has this feature where you can just go to a shrine, respec. You want to respec? Cool. Go ahead. As many times as you want. Because I think how they want you to play it is, don't get comfortable with a single build. Yes, you may have a build that carries you through the game. And a lot of us, we play that way. We want to be the ultimate weapon. And I think the only reason we settle in being the ultimate weapon is we don't want to constantly change our loadouts. That's too much for us. But Wukong kind of pushes you in that direction of change it a little bit. Try different things. We give you fire spells for a snow area. Why wouldn't you use, if you're suffering from frostbite, it's probably because you're not using your fire. You can push your way through, but at that point, you're making it difficult on yourself. We've given you multiple tools to try different things to see what works. Don't get set in your ways. And I feel like, with that feels like, a Chinese proverb, which I guess would fit into the theme, like, don't get set in your ways. You got to mix it up. This enemy is resistant to poison and you have a poison build. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep smacking them with poison? No, go Try something else, mix it up. Your combat style can still be the same, but the abilities you carry might be different. I think later in the game, there's a boss that can restrict spells. Well, we know Immobilize is probably one of the most broken spells in an action game. I mean, you literally stop your opponent's movements. And then as I found out later in the game, there's enemies that when you use it, and I love how reactive some of the bosses are. One of the secret bosses that I fought, when I used Immobilize and I went to hit him, he teleported out of it. And he literally said, "What a dirty trick." And I was like, oh, so you know what I'm doing. It made me realize I need to try different things. I need to experiment. I need to expand my horizons a bit. And one thing I will say is, and you were talking about it before we started the show, the survival tree. Instinct would tell you in that game to put your points in the health, stamina, damage, defense, all that. I started the game and I did that. It is not worth it. My first tip to you guys playing Wukong, take your points out of health, take your points out of stamina. I know they're like, but that's stupid. That's suicide. No, it's a trap. It is absolutely a trap because the points are only like 60 points, which is not a lot. There's a character that you'll meet in chapter 2 called Zoo Dog. Once you get his little side quest going and you get to a certain point, he'll upgrade your health, your stamina, and your mana using mind cores for way more than the points you would waste in the survival tree. I was telling people this on threads. They were like, hey, anybody got some tips for Wukong? Because people are still figuring the game out. I think only like 5% have actually beaten the game on PlayStation, at least. Because a lot of people, they're getting stuck on bosses. There are a lot of people, they're looking for secret bosses because there's a ton of secret bosses and secret areas. And even I got stuck for a while on a couple of bosses, and I really couldn't get much help because a lot of people probably hadn't even found the bosses that I was fighting. So I had to kind of like figure things out. And that's when I was like, your best point investments is in martial arts, in foundation, stamina, and your stances. Get those up so that you can, deal the most damage, find a staff that works best for you, and just experiment. Like, don't be scared to experiment with your build and your armor loadout. Everything has a purpose. And level up your gourd. I think I was like in chapter 3 before I remembered I could level up my gourd.
I actually didn't know, but I haven't really played a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
you can level that up for extra health. And I love how things transform as you upgrade them. Also, armor is upgradable. I see a lot of people don't unlock armor upgrading, which, to be fair, it's hidden behind a quest line that's not exactly in your face. So if you don't put 2 and 2 together, a lot of people, they just take the newest armor that becomes available.
I like games where you have to kind of go out of your way to find certain quests and certain NPCs to be able to do certain things like level up your armor, things that might be useful but not necessarily needed to play the game or to beat it. But I also can understand why a lot of people don't like that. It can be very like, I can understand why somebody might want to turn the game on, have your quest log, and just go do your thing, kind of have your handheld a little bit. Now, I don't say that to be mean or shitty. Just, to help you just get through the game. Get through the game, see the story, and move on. Not everyone wants, so I get it. Because I've seen some complaints regarding it.
I think the reason they didn't include a quest log and a mini map is for other games, your character has a direct goal that they're trying to achieve, and the power they acquire along the way is to help them achieve that goal. That would kind of go against Sun Wukong's lore in a way. He lives for himself, for
he's very selfish.
Yeah.
Like, he's not, if you're not familiar with the story or anything, you might at first glance assume, maybe because of the connection and inspiration from Journey to the West to Dragon Ball, I don't know, but you might assume that he's a very selfless, honorable guy who's just trying to go out and do something righteous or do the right thing or whatever the case. But I see a little Saiyan in him. He's very prideful and very he wants to fight. He lives for fighting. Like that's really all he wants to do.
Yeah.
It's almost like if Goku and Vegeta, I don't know, fused.
No, yeah, that makes a good point. Like the journey this is how Sun would go about the journey. He would do what he wants, when he wants, how he wants. He wouldn't follow any set guide. He would be like, oh, well, I'll get to that when I want to get to it. But for now, I want to fight. And guess what? Over here, there's a guy over here I want to fight. So I'm going to go fight this guy.
He doesn't even ask, are you strong? He's like, I'm fighting you.
I'm fighting you. Yeah.
So I got a question for you. So I've heard some complaints, not really complaints, but I guess dissatisfaction would be the right word with the voice, the English dub. I can understand it was a little off-puttish, but it's also because it's not synced because it's being dubbed. And it's I feel like the voice actor was trying to portray this ape, this monkey that is mischievous and is kind of shady. And I feel like that's what the voice actor was just trying to get across with that type of voice.
And trying to match the tone of the Chinese version. I don't see. Here's the thing. Sometimes, and I know people are probably going to come at me for this one. That's fine. I think people were complaining for the sake of having something to complain about. There's going to be a complaint on anything. I don't think it's as bad as people have made it out to seem. I think the lip syncing the lip syncing makes you listen to the dub more carefully because our brains, we know for our language what our mouths should be doing for certain words.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see that mouth not matching, you pay even more attention to the dialogue. It's kind of like how when you look back at old movies. Yeah. So when you look back at old movies, we always make fun of the dub, not because some of it was downright terrible.
Yeah.
But
you ever seen old Godzilla movies?
Yeah. Some of it is downright
pretty bad. They're pretty
downright
bad.
terrible. But not all of them are terrible, but we remember them as bad because we were like, we're watching the mouth not match the words, and that throws us off.
Well, like the tone doesn't really match like what you'd expect. Like you're like, he doesn't sound like that.
I've been playing most of the game in English for my first playthrough. I plan to play it in Chinese for my second one. I haven't had a problem with it. It hasn't taken me out of the moment. I think the English voice actors did their best to make it as seamless as possible. It is not, it's not as bad in my opinion as everyone else is making it out to be.
I feel like that voice would be really hard to do.
For some, yeah.
While also portraying like the emotion and maybe the frustration and mischievousness of that character.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a tough voice to do.
I was going to say, what were they going to do? Bring in someone with a deep voice? Bring in someone with an overly high-pitched voice?
Like
that's hard. I was impressed. Like at first I was like, huh?
Deepest voice ever.
Yeah. I was impressed that, because they probably had to listen to the Chinese version and try to get their vocals in that same realm.
Yeah. Voice acting is crazy difficult.
It's crazy difficult.
It's a very impressive like career choice to me.
Yeah.
Very impressive talent. I think we all like have like little jokes about like we'll do like little voices and stuff. But to be able to like have your own voice, but then match other people's voices perfectly and their tone, and then bring characters to life. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah. So I think it was fine. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it was that bad. People complaining for the sake of complaining, in my personal opinion on that one. So, but if it bothers you, just switch it back to Chinese. Get good at reading subtitles.
And despite what some of y'all might think, because I know there's some of y'all out there that probably want to switch it over to Japanese. I don't know if that's an option. I'm assuming it might be.
It's just Chinese and English
for us, but I don't know. Maybe.
Oh yeah, and yeah,
you could probably get a whole. I don't know. I'm just saying. I would imagine even the Japanese would be off.
Yeah, I think every other language is going to be off.
Every language is going to be off because Chinese is. God, it's such a. It's more technical than most languages, and it has so many more characters than most languages, even Japanese. So I would imagine all the different like tones and dialects and stuff are very challenging to bring over and match and do well with English.
Especially with
we even struggle with that
words.
sometimes with Japanese.
Yeah, because we stress words in English differently than another language might. Right. You know, we might emphasize a word differently.
But yeah, great game. I look forward to playing it today. Finally get to sit down and like kind of go through it more and fight some of these bosses and go through the story. Gorgeous game though.
Yeah, I know when you were first playing, you were like
wasn't expecting
you were hooked on how gorgeous it is.
I was, especially that the opening cinematics was just. I rewatched it like 3 or 4 times. This is so cool, and it really did. You know what it made me feel like, and I'm probably, I will give this to people listening. I'm probably reaching with this a little bit because I grew up watching the original Dragon Ball, but Goku standing in front of the Red Ribbon Army with his power pole after jumping off his Nimbus Cloud, like that's just what it reminded me of. And I know it's like those are 2 totally different things. Yes, Dragon Ball was expired by, but it's not Dragon Ball. It is not at all. That's not what they're trying to do. But the parallels are there, and it's just what it made me. It's what it made me remember.
Yeah. I'm definitely having a huge amount of fun with it. It's made me realize that I actually would like boss rush games. There's a certain challenge to it because usually I hate dealing with certain bosses, or like I hate dealing with bosses in games. I'm like, just give me my reward and give me, let me go on my way. And one thing about Wukong, I've realized this year, I need more games that reward my time and effort by letting me become overpowered. I'm past the era now, or the stage in my life, maybe because it's so saturated. I can't just play Call of Duty and Apex anymore, and the only reward I get from that is I won a few matches and that's it. That's all I got to show for it. Maybe my level, unless I play ranked.
I don't want to sit down and play a game where eventually I might earn something when other people can just purchase those things.
Yeah.
It takes away any sort of fulfillment or pride that you might have in accomplishing anything. It's one of the reasons I stopped playing World of Warcraft back like 7 years ago, because they started rolling out more of those transactions and you can just purchase mounts, you can purchase everything in that game. It turned the game into ass.
Yeah. Wukong is very rewarding. Just like for me, Stellar Blade was very rewarding. I built Eve up to a very powerful point. So when I started my new game, I'm cruising, and I plan to do that Wukong. I just unlocked my first mythical weapon. I did a whole side quest involving some very difficult dragons.
I'm assuming all the weapon unlocks are some form of some kind of staff.
Oh, everything is a staff. That is the only, but it's some form. You've got thunder staffs, poison staffs that do more damage.
Cool.
Yeah, with certain stances.
I'm guessing things like poison staff does damage over time.
Yeah, you can build poison. There's a build. It's actually a very powerful build. It's something if you guys want to try it out. If you get to at least chapter 3, finish chapter 3, there's a staff you can get. It's a spider staff. It does poison damage. And then later there's an armor you can get that when you are, I believe, poisoned yourself, you do extra damage. So you have a staff that deals poison damage. When you're poisoned, you do extra damage. And when you are poisoned, the staff heals you when you spend focus points in your attacks. So you're poisoned, you're poisoning, but because you're poisoned, you deal extra damage that you can then heal yourself from by using the focus points that you've built up in your combos. And you have a gourd that can, if you get what is called brew, there's a lot of brews you can collect. So this game promotes exploration. Explore every nook and cranny because there's usually something to find, some spirit that you can fight to unlock. Spirits are like mini bosses. And when you find a brew, I think it's a scorpion tail, you drink the brew, meant to heal you, but it will also poison you, which will activate all your other perks. So poison build is actually, as in most games, is a very powerful build in this game. Me personally, I run a pillar stance rock solid build. I like to go and use rock solid, which you get from a boss you have to fight. So attacks bounce off of me, and then the moment they bounce off of me, I get mana back. My attack for my next attack goes up. I pretty much leap into a combo. I smack them with my mythical staff that rains a lightning dragon down on them, and then I walk away looking like a badass. But sometimes I still get folded, but for the most part, I'm good. I'm hunting down all those secret bosses, and it's definitely worth it. Check every corner. That's why I said this was a game for you, because the way you play Elden Ring, I said I would be very disappointed in you if you didn't find some of the secret stuff I found, because the way you are thorough.
I still find shit in Elden Ring, which is wild because I so many times I had felt like I found everything that there was to find. Platinum the game on PC and PlayStation, and then the DLC came out. Maybe there's some stuff in the DLC I haven't found yet because I haven't explored that DLC quite as heavily as I have the base game.
Because of
by the way, because you were talking about the poison build and poison and poisoning and getting healed and being more powerful. Where was that at Shaded Castle in Elden Ring? Surrounded by poison and everything was poison. And then on top of that was like death blight. Like, oh man. Anyways, like, man, where was my poisoning, getting healed OP at that shitty castle?
But let me know what you guys think about Black Myth Wukong. I love the game. It's a phenomenal game. Do you guys want us to cover the lore? I know you guys loved when we did some Elden Ring lore. So if you guys want us to cover the lore, let us know. Give this video a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments if you want us to cover the lore. We will definitely do that. I do have one final thought I want to talk about, changing gears really quick here. I don't know if you know this. I was talking about it in our Discord, and it's funny, I had mentioned this to Burn the other day, and I said, it's time for this to happen. The fans won't like it, but it happens with each generation, and it was pretty much time for it to happen to ours. That Shonen Jump is gearing up for a new big three.
Ooh, who is it? Have they announced who they
on their most recent cover, they have the 3 anime that they picked.
Shonen
and
picked the big 3.
Who their daddy is.
Because before so they're saying who the big 3 of each generation basically was.
For the new generation, it's Black Clover.
Okay.
My Hero. Okay. All of a sudden, the third one eludes me. I think it's not Demon Slayer, which surprised a lot of people.
There's a difference between being popular with good animation and a fun story and being impactful.
I want to say the third one is Jujutsu Kaisen.
Jujutsu Kaisen would make sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
Black Clover, though, I'm surprised because Black Clover there's a love-hate relationship with Black Clover, and it doesn't feel like most people like Black Clover. It feels like half the people think it's a garbage anime and the other half think it's really fun. I'll tell you guys, I'm caught up on the manga myself, and I cannot wait for Black Clover to get animated down the line, like for the new chapters, because it is going to be so good. It's going to be a fun, solid shonen anime.
Yeah.
But I can understand. Well, actually, you know what? I can't, because if you put up with Naruto's loud ass mouth, you could certainly deal with Asta.
Yeah, and
I can understand why that might be off-putting. Like Asta, his voice is kind of annoying, but you get used to it. And honestly, you'd think it'd be better, but in Japanese, Naruto and Asta are
still the same.
Still a little obnoxious, but that's kind of like the shtick, I think, is like they're obnoxious, they're kids. You got to think about that too. They're kids. They're not you and me. They're not grown adults. They're like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah, because when we were watching Naruto didn't annoy us.
Right. And then we got to grow up with Naruto.
Yeah.
As he grew up and everyone in it. So I think that's cool. So I think that's awesome that Black Clover is the big three. Did they say who the previous big three were?
So we all know who the previous big three were. We know One Piece, which is still going, Naruto, Bleach, and the granddaddy was Goku. This is what's going to tick fans off. I was just telling, like I said, I was telling Byrne, I said, Goku is on the stage of getting phased out. I said, everyone is on the Goku hype train. That's our generation. That's us holding on.
Mm-hmm.
We started the can he beat Goku era. And I said, that stems from the generation before us, the Cowboy Bebop, the Gundam Wing, the Astro Boy era, the OGs from the 80s, and their icons. Goku phased them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we came in and we were like, Goku's top dog, can't nobody beat Goku.
Is it because Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z did something that hadn't been done yet, and then it was exciting and new and fun? Or was it simply that it was just better, or did it just get phased out for the generation?
So here's the thing. Notice Dragon Ball is not included. A lot of Dragon Ball Z fans refuse to watch Dragon Ball.
I don't understand why, because
Dragon Ball belongs with the 80s group, the OG. The
Dragon
OG
Ball
people
is such a good story.
Yeah.
It can be childish.
Yeah.
And it's definitely has stuff in it that would not fly today.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. It's heartfelt. It has a wonderful story. You get to learn Goku's grandfather that raised him, and you get to, there's a lot of moments there that are.
Do you know what it doesn't have?
And it has all this stuff that takes Goku and he grows up and it shapes him into the person he becomes. What does it not have? What does he not have?
The 5-minute transformations.
That's also what it doesn't have. Dude, the original Dragon Ball and then those Dragon Ball movies that kind of bridged Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. What's the one with God, I mean, fuck, there's like 50 fucking Dragon Ball.
I was about to say there's a lot of movies.
No, the one with I cannot remember his name. The Zone.
Oh,
You know, he had to get sucked into the zone. I forget his name. It's been so damn long. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But anyways, the choreography and the fights were on a different level back then. And I think that's something that our generation is able to appreciate with things like Jujutsu Kaisen, because you just don't get that kind of choreography anymore. Naruto had it, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z had it. Dragon Ball Super does not have it. Dragon Ball Super is animation, CGI, and lots of Kai blasts. It's fun. I enjoy it, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Hand to Hand has died down in a lot of anime. So
you think some of it's because people want anime now?
I do.
So
I think it's because people want
animators to leave out things like hand signs in Boruto.
Yeah, that's why hand signs kind of went away, is because, you know, the time of animation, they're like, well, how can we shave the time down and get the show off faster? Remove hand signs. Just make them obsolete.
I'm not saying like don't accept change and grow through the times. Like obviously we're all going to grow, adapt, change. But the choreography is missing from a lot of anime now. And it's one thing I liked about Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not like a massive Jujutsu Kaisen fan. I do like watching it. But I really appreciate the choreography in that anime.
Yeah. But now, and I feel like it's been long overdue that this gets the respect it deserves. Goku's time, I'm not saying Goku's time is up, but his time in the limelight is happening. We are going through the phase of the previous generation. I was saying, and it was funny that I saw the clip right after I had said it, because, you know, devices love to listen. And I was like, Goku's on his time. He's on his way out. There will be a new big three. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to face it. But our era is coming to an end. Our time in the light is coming to an end. We're passing the mantle.
Yep. So don't forget where it all started.
Yeah.
It didn't all start with Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer. Everything that happened even before our time, like we can't be like, you know, oh, Gundam, we didn't like the animation. Like do I care for the animation of older anime? Not really. But I have watched them for the storyline, for understanding where anime has come from to lead us here. And a lot of those animes are really good. You just don't worry about the animation. It's not all flashy like it is now, but the storylines are good. They're original. They're fun.
Well, the new show's Big Daddy, because I know everybody's waiting, is Bleach.
Hell yeah. Bleach deserves this. No,
it's Bleach.
Bleach deserves respect. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Bleach is being hailed as the granddaddy for the potential new big three.
Because it got disrespected when it first came out. Not because it was bad. It just had a lot of hiccups.
Yeah. Well, they were working Tight Kubo to the bones, and they were like rushing him to keep up with One Piece and Naruto. And it messed up the story he was trying to tell. And now that the 1,000-Year Blood War is, you know, out and he's getting to do it the way he wanted to do it, people are rediscovering Bleach. They're looking back at it and they're like, wow, wasn't as bad as we thought it was. Yes, the Mount arc, that was probably the low point for Bleach because it was literally filler, non-canon.
Which, just like most animes that are pretty big, like One Piece and Naruto, for instance,
yeah,
you can skip that. And you know, I'm very surprised. I don't think Black Clover has any filler.
No,
which is surprising. Like
their filler is the non-canon movies.
No kidding. And that's what we expect. We expect the movies to be fun, and we expect them to be non-canon. Mm-hmm. They typically are never canon.
Yep.
Even the Dragon Ball movies, none of them are really canon.
I don't think I haven't watched every episode because I read it. I don't think My Hero has filler either.
No, it doesn't. I didn't read the manga to the end. Like I'm not done reading My Hero Academia. But I'm caught up on Black Clover. So I can say for sure Black Clover has no fillers. And it's pretty like chapter to chapter, which is why there's been a pause. They went on hiatus because there was no material. So they did the right thing. They went on hiatus and they let the artist catch up. And he only puts out like a chapter or two a month. And then he'll drop like 5 chapters. And then he'll drop nothing for 6 months.
Yep. He's taking breaks. You know, he's pacing himself.
Cook, right? Let him cook. Let him do his thing. I'm happy. I'm happy that Black Clover and Bleach are getting respect.
Yeah. So, yeah, that brace yourselves, anime fans. You know, it was time, and I saw it too. I saw the Bleach influences, and I was like, man, people slept on Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge Bleach fan. Naruto was my favorite, but Bleach was like right there. It was like, one day it could be Bleach was my favorite, and then Naruto just barely reclaimed it.
You know what I'm excited for?
What?
November 8th. I think it's November 8th.
What's November 8th? What's happening in November?
Overlord movie.
Oh, that's right.
Because this is smart, but I think this is smart. They made a movie out of the Paladin of the Holy Kingdom, which is 2 books. And there is a lot of stuff in here that's very important to the overall arching story. Inside season 4, as you go through season 4, the first part of season 4 is nothing's happening in the background. Not really. The second part of season 4, while they're going through this war, while they're doing all this other shit, that's when they're doing all the shit in the Holy Arc. Like it kind of happens between and kind of during the first and second part of season 4. I understand why they did it that way too. The movie, do you know how long the movie's going to be?
Mm-mm.
Over 2 hours long.
I had a feeling you were going to say 2 hours. That is insane
for an anime movie. Most anime movies are like an hour and a half, hour 40.
Yeah.
Over 2 hours. I was so happy to hear that because that means they're not going to cut stuff.
Yeah, for a full anime movie, that's wild. I mean, unless it was literally a movie, most anime movie tie-ins are not long.
God, and Yeah, one of my favorite light novels to read. You'll like this, because I know we're probably running out of time here, so I'll be quick. Jobless Reincarnation. I bought the first 3 light novels, so I'm going to start collecting the light novels and reading them, which they're not even done yet. Like,
no,
I thought that it was done, and we're just apparently
it picks up with his kids.
Yeah, apparently it's like a whole lineage of his family, and he's just the beginning. This shit's gonna be as long as One Piece, dude. Like,
it goes into.
I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I looked into how long this light novel really is, and I was like, oh my god, if they follow this even mostly close, this is a lot of material.
I'm still a firm believer that this is the second attempt at the anime and the furthest it's got. I swear, before I was even in the Navy, I saw this as an anime, and they got maybe the first season out, but it was raunchy for the time, so I think it got canceled. I know someone else out there has seen it, like because I was like, when Jobless Reincarnation anime came out, I remember watching those episodes because I read it, but I also remember watching it. I remember it was in the old style too, and I was like, this was an anime before, but I couldn't find it anywhere, like, for the year. So I was like, I know I'm not tripping. Somebody else please confirm with me that this is the second time that they're trying to do this as an anime. Because I know I'm not crazy. I swear I watched it before.
We'll look into it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all the time we've got for this episode. Are you guys playing Black Myth Wukong? If so, what tips and tricks do you have for us? Maybe we'll do a lore video in the future. And how do you feel about the potential new Big 3 now that they've hit the cover of Shonen? Are you guys sad to see Goku joining the others on the retirement bench in the near future?
You remember when he was in his blue and he had a halo? It was the ending of Dragon Ball Z, and he waved as he went away. That's what's happening.
It's time for that wave. It's time for that wave. But that's what happens with the times. Anyway, you guys have been amazing. Take care of yourself and each other, and we'll catch all you wonderful people on the next podcast. Later.